Good afternoon. On today's news broadcast, we'll be looking at hurricanes hitting the United States and political actions happening across the world, plus local sports, weather, and more. APSU-TV News starts right now. Good afternoon, I'm Brandon Crosslin.
And I'm Rachel Lejeune, and on behalf of all of us, welcome back to APSU-TV News.
Well, the beginning of a school year was full of different events for new and returning students of Austin Peay. The annual Ice Cream Social was held in the Quad, with free ice cream being provided by Berry Bear. Hundreds of students came out to participate and get to know the people who will become their peers in the months to come. Events such as this are scheduled to continue for the rest of the month and into the semester. For questions or information concerning different events, contact University Advancement at 931-221-7127.
After 12 days on the ground in some of the worst areas hit by Hurricane Harvey, members with the Tennessee's Task Force 1 are back home, but not for long. Many are already preparing to leave for Florida ahead of Hurricane Irma. Nearly 80 local firefighters, doctors, engineers, and canine handlers helped rescue more than 1,000 people from the floodwaters in Texas. They say serving those in need was a humbling experience and that they are ready to do it again. And for some, it will be much sooner than expected. CNN's David Detling has more.
It was a caravan of flashing lights on OK Robertson Road in Fraser Tuesday. A homecoming for 80 members of Tennessee Task Force 1. Happy to reunite with loved ones after 12 days in Texas working hurricane relief.
Pulling in parking lot, seeing her standing there waiting on me makes all that already forgotten. I'm ready for tonight and tomorrow and next few days, just rest.
When you saw him, what went through your mind?
Just glad to be home. Glad to be home. Glad he's safe and glad all the boys are safe and girls.
More than 80 members of Task Force 1 assisted in water rescue efforts in Houston and Katy, Texas. For Latoya Gallen, this was her first deployment.
They was glad. They said people had been coming by and no one never stopped and asked them anything.
Back home, these men and women will unpack their gear and spend time with family before their next deployment.
It's good to be home. We're glad to do our part. We're glad to help the people in Texas. It's our honor to do so, and anytime we're called upon to do so, we'll be willing to do it at any time.
Well, mosquitoes are swarming in southeast Texas after Hurricane Harvey. Standing water and wet debris are prime breeding grounds for the insects. As CNN's Natasha Barrett reports, residents and city officials are taking action.
Yeah, it's too much, man.
No matter where you look, it is everywhere.
He's not coming 2 or 3. He's coming, wow, bunch of mosquitoes.
Though floodwaters receded in the Riverstone neighborhood, what is left behind in these wet trash piles on the curb and water all around the yard is the perfect breeding ground for mosquitoes.
I've just noticed that every time I'm outside, I'm getting bitten.
And like a number of places, the city of Rosenberg is spraying for mosquitoes now twice a week. Missouri City is also increasing its spraying, adding 1 additional spray per week.
We're concentrating on areas where there's puddles of water, parks, and kind of open spaces. That's how we intend to do this for the next 6 weeks and monitor the situation.
First up to attack, any large areas near water, parks, and bayous. Harris County Mosquito Control is keeping track of each area where mosquitoes are discovered, testing it for any disease, and then spraying.
I think every citizen, everybody has a little bit of a responsibility. If you have open saucers and pans and water standing in your backyard, there are some things that you can do to alleviate the mosquitoes.
Looking ahead, ground spraying may not be enough to keep the massive number of mosquitoes under control. Harris County is considering aerial spraying soon as well, while people cope.
My husband sprayed last night.
You did your own spraying?
Yes, he did, yes.
The CDC said post-flood mosquitoes are typically only a nuisance and don't usually spread disease. However, some types of mosquitoes could spread viruses like West Nile or Zika. Tips for protection include wearing long-sleeve shirts and long pants and using an approved insect repellent.
Hurricane Irma is now a Category 4 storm. Maximum sustained winds have dropped slightly to 155 miles an hour, but it's still a dangerous and deadly storm. And with millions of residents in Irma's path, Florida isn't taking any chances. CNN's Kristen Holmes joins us now from Miami.
As Hurricane Irma makes its way towards the Florida coastline, the state is going from business as usual to storm ready. Florida is busy preparing for Hurricane Irma. Forecasters still aren't sure exactly where the storm will hit, but people in the Sunshine State are getting ready anyway.
You might as well leave now while you have a chance, because when you dial 911, you will not get an answer.
They're getting out however they can. Travelers stood in line for hours at airports, cars headed north, causing interstate backups and slowdowns, while drivers waited at gas stations, some of which ran out of fuel. Depending on Irma's path, the powerful storm could create one of the largest mass evacuations in U.S. history, with some 6 million residents of southern Florida potentially impacted. The urgency is spurred by the destruction Irma has wrought in the Caribbean. Irma shredding buildings, toppling cars, and leaving streets submerged in water. On island after island, survivors describing apocalyptic scenes.
One of the oldest churches here in Anguilla, completely destroyed, and it's a shell. It's just the magnitude is just it's. I keep saying incomprehensible because that's what we're seeing on the ground.
These stories in the aftermath of Harvey in Texas have the southeastern coast of the U.S. taking the storm very seriously. And Florida Governor Rick Scott has said that all government buildings as well as public schools and public universities will be closed at least through Monday so they can serve as shelters if needed. Now here in Miami, they are opening up 13 additional shelters later this morning. Reporting in Miami, I'm Kristen Holmes. Now back to you.
For a look at today's weather forecast, let's head over to Aaliyah Harris.
Thank you for introducing me to the weather today. So we have Seattle at 64, Los Angeles 78, and Denver sitting at 80, and Dallas at 81. And then for Atlanta, we have 76, and Chicago at 65. And then over New York, we have 73. And today for today's highs is Memphis at 80, and Clarksville is 77, and Nashville we have 78, and Chattanooga we have 79, and in Knoxville we have 77. And today's lows for tonight, for Memphis we have 58, and Clarksville at 52, and in wonderful Nashville we have 55, and Chattanooga at 58, and Knoxville at 53. So today current temperature is 74 degrees with winds at east-northeast at 4 miles per hour. And tonight, temperature, we have 52 degrees. It's going to be kind of cold tonight, so make sure you have a coat. And the winds are east-northeast at 3 miles per hour with precipitation at 10%. Today's for a 5-day forecast. We have Friday at sunny and high of 77 with a low of 52. And then on Saturday, we have mostly sunny, partly cloudy, a little there, and a high of 79, a low of 52. On Sunday, we have a bright sunny all day that day, so make sure you get out there and enjoy some of the sun with a high of 77 and then a low of 51. And on Monday, it'll be mostly cloudy with the sun coming out, peeking through the clouds throughout the day. Be sure to get out there and enjoy that warm, nice temperature before Tuesday, and with a high of 72 and then a low of 54. And then on Tuesday, we have mostly rain and wind. Make sure you have an umbrella, and with a high of 69 and a low of 58. And still ahead, we have your political corner with Mason Devers and what's happening in the world of sports. APSU-TV News will be back.
The military forces of the United States have defended our country. The Revolutionary War produced battlefield heroes and statesmen. Our national unity was settled by the Civil War. America strode onto the world stage with the Spanish-American War and to turn the tide in World War I. American military forces were instrumental in World War II and distinguished themselves in Korea and Vietnam. American military might led to victory in the Cold War and today has the lead in the global war on terror. Military art may be the art that enables all other arts to flourish. Study the history of that essential art. Earn an MA in military history at Peay State University.
Let's go Peay!
Let's go Peay!
Let's go Peay!
Let's go Peay!
Let's go Peay! Let's go Peay!
Austin Peay in the last 2 years has added more opportunities for students to study abroad, including additional exchange program opportunities for students to study abroad for an academic year or a full semester, and also short-term study abroad opportunities for that student that can't afford to be gone for more than a few weeks.
For one, you get an opportunity to live in a foreign country.
I got to travel around Europe and have a great time all while earning college credit.
Tremendously mind-blowing.
I learned the language, and I was always fascinated with the culture and the people. First-hand experience on the culture. I got to taste the food. So if you're looking for a great experience.
Looking for a great experience?
So if you're looking for a really great experience,
come take a look.
Come take a look.
Come check out the Study Abroad program.
Welcome back to today's Political Corner. While it has been a normal week for us here at the Peay, it has been a busy week for the Trump administration. So let's take a recap of some of this week's stories. President Trump started off the week with a busy Labor Day. It was full of phone calls and meetings with advisors on a number of hot-button issues, including North Korea and Hurricane Harvey recovery efforts. Also on Monday, Florida Governor Rick Scott declared a state of emergency ahead of Hurricane Irma's expected landfall later this weekend. On Tuesday, the administration announced that they would withdraw the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, also known as DACA. The Department of Homeland Security formally rescinded DACA with a 6-month delay for current recipients. The interval is meant to give Congress time to deliver on appropriate legislative solutions. President Trump stated that his intention was not to punish children, most of whom are now adults, for the actions of their parents, but that we also must recognize that we are a nation of laws. Nearly 800,000 undocumented youth are currently under the program's protection. President Trump struck a deal Wednesday with Democratic leaders to raise the federal debt ceiling and fund the government for the next 3 months in order to provide Hurricane Harvey relief. The House overwhelmingly approved an initial $8 billion in funding for relief by a 419-3 vote. Trump said the hurricane funding will likely increase due to Hurricane Irma. Hurricane Harvey was projected to be the most destructive natural disaster in U.S. history, causing an estimated $180 billion in damage. However, weather experts are speculating that Hurricane Irma could be worse.
Thank you, Mason. The White House may soon be hearing from Russian lawyers. The Kremlin says it will sue the United States over the closure of Russian consulates in the U.S. The threat of a lawsuit comes after the U.S. forced Russian diplomatic facilities to shut down in San Francisco, New York, and Washington, D.C. A spokesman for the Kremlin says Russia will file a lawsuit to contest the move. Ever since the U.S. accused Russia of meddling in last year's election, the two countries have been going back and forth, closing missions and reducing the number of diplomats. The U.S. State Department responded to the threat of a lawsuit on Tuesday. Spokeswoman Heather Nauert told CNN the administration is, quote, confident in the legality of the closures.
And now let's head over to Ben Goodman for a look at your Gov Sports update.
Thanks, Rachel. With the start of a new school year comes the return of fall sports at Austin Peay. Let's start with the football team. Last week, the Govs headed up north to take on FBS opponent Cincinnati. The Govs were projected to go down by 41 points, but in the end, a surprising final of 26-14 was left on the scoreboard. Even in the loss, there was a lot of things to take away. The Govs took away more yards and time of possession from the Bearcats and caught the attention of the conference by putting up the top numbers in defense around the OVC for the first week. After a great showing last week, Austin Peay heads back to Ohio to take on the Miami Red Hawks on Saturday. Kickoff for that game is at 2:30. The volleyball team has made great strides to start the 2017 season, starting the season at 6-2. One big noteworthy win in this season is against the Missouri Tigers during the Culver's Governor's Challenge just a few weeks ago. Last night, however, Austin Peay's winning streak would come to an end with a 3-set shutout against Ole Miss. Austin Peay continues its weekend trip to Oxford in the Ole Miss Classic against Mercer and Northwest State, going in 2 games today at 10 and 3. You can get all the information at letsgopeay.com. Austin Peay soccer has gotten off to a good start as well, with a current 3-2 record. Last weekend's home contest against Georgia State was canceled due to the effects of Hurricane Harvey hitting Tennessee, but last Sunday's trip down to LSU would see a 3-1 loss against the Tigers. Austin Peay's only goal of the game would come from freshman Gibson Roth in the first half. The Govs will finish their non-conference slate tonight with Mississippi Valley State starting at 7 tonight and Little Rock at 1 on Sunday. Finally, the NFL is back, and we got two big stories that are coming out of the conference this week. The first one is upsetting if you are a Miami or Tampa Bay fan. Due to the impact of Hurricane Irma, it is going to be announced that earlier this week that the Dolphins and Buccaneers game in Miami would be canceled. As of right now, a makeup date has not been set for that game. But the other story might surprise you if you missed the first game of the season last night. Super Bowl champion New England Patriots returned to Foxborough to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. For 3 quarters, the Patriots looked to extend their winning streak from last season to 19-0. But in a big fourth quarter rally, the Chiefs scored 21 points to put Kansas City over the champs, 42-27. Quarterback Alex Smith put up 368 yards and 4 touchdowns. Rookie running back Kareem Hunt would account for 3 touchdowns, making a great impression in his first year. Tom Brady struggled last night, putting up 267 passing yards, but no touchdowns coming from his record. Sunday continues the opening week with the Titans returning to Nissan Stadium to take on Marshawn Lynch and the Oakland Raiders. Kickoff is at 12 noon. That's all for sports. Coming up next, today's Health Minute, and you don't want to miss this week's. Take a look at this. APSU-TV News will be right back.
The honors program at Austin Peay started. There was a group of professors who thought, what are we doing for our strongest students? And since then, the program has changed and grown with the university. And now we have over 300 students who are in the program. It's open to students of all majors.
I wanted something that would set me apart from other pre-med students. So I thought the honor program would help me with that. It's pretty easy to make friends here because everyone here is focused on school because they're in the honors program, so they want to get something out of school. And it's just a nice place to come to study.
In the classrooms, they will be asked to stand on their tiptoes, is what we say. But the classes are more interesting. They move along a little faster. It's a place where those students can congregate to study, so I think students are better prepared for careers and for life in general through that academic curriculum.
Are you prepared for life outside of college?
Probably not yet.
Austin Peay's Career Services is there to help you transition to post-grad life.
I've had some friends use Career Services, but I've never used it myself.
Whether you need assistance finding a major or preparing for your future career, this free service has all of the tools to guide you.
We try to equip students and alumni with the tools that they need to go through that job searching process.
They built their resume and it gave complete relief off of me because I was able to walk out of there and be confident in my next interview.
The entire reason of going to college is so that you can actually get a job. So those resources that are available to you in career services are second to none on campus. It's the best place to go to.
Stop by room 210 in the Morgan University Center or visit www.apsu.edu/careers. Take the first step into your future today.
Welcome back. North Korea is once again flexing its military muscle, conducting a nuclear test and a missile launch within the last week. But American authorities are still struggling to understand the secretive regime. CNN's Brian Todd has this report.
He's never met with a foreign head of state, never even set foot outside his own country during nearly 6 years in power. Some of the best intelligence on Kim Jong-un comes from the unpredictable former NBA star Dennis Rodman, who says he's held Kim's baby daughter in his arms. That, in a nutshell, shows the challenges of gathering intelligence on the secretive regime of America's increasingly powerful enemy.
It's very difficult. In the intelligence community, we've referred to North Korea as the hardest of the hard targets.
The U.S. Director of National Intelligence recently admitted how difficult North Korea is to spy on.
It is, if not one of the hardest collection nation that we have to collect against. It becomes a difficult challenge relative to a society as closed and as isolated as North Korea is to get the right intelligence that we need.
Human intelligence is scarce.
How hard is it for a Westerner to get in there and walk down the street in Pyongyang, meet with someone, get intelligence?
It's extremely difficult, virtually impossible. First of all, we don't have an embassy in Pyongyang, so that limits the official diplomats or any kind of agents we might run. Also, just trying to blend in. Obviously, we stand out because of a different ethnicity, but also even South Koreans trying to run operatives, they have difficulties. It's different dialects, different uses of words, different pronunciation, and also the populace itself is so so incredibly suspicious of any foreigner, anyone they don't recognize.
North Koreans who talk to foreigners without permission could wind up thrown in prison camps or even executed. There are not a lot of phone or internet signals to hack. This photo from space shows just what a dark country it is. And while spy satellites can look for activity at launch pads and nuclear sites, U.S. military officials say North Korea has stepped up its efforts to hide many of its weapons activities.
They've learned from watching how we attack targets how to bury things in deep underground complexes. So one of the notable things is where you see something like VIP housing, some observable, often what they've done is they've buried something so deep you cannot see what's going on.
Analysts say the U.S. does get valuable help from South Korean intelligence. But are America's decision makers making choices without a full picture?
I think the decision makers may not have the full information, but they do understand how to look at history and figure out by extrapolation what's probably going to happen.
U.S.-backed forces say that they have taken control of the old city of Raqqa from ISIS. CNN has obtained exclusive drone footage of western Raqqa showing the utter destruction of neighborhoods that have yet to be cleared of snipers and mines. CNN's Hala Gorani reports.
For the past 3 years, Raqqa has been hidden from the eyes of the world. But now exclusive drone footage gives us a first bird's-eye view of ISIS's de facto capital. 3 months since the battle for Raqqa began, this is what is left of newly liberated western neighborhoods. Around 200,000 civilians have fled the city, an estimated 20,000 still trapped in the center. Not a person in sight in this square, which is named after a relative of President Bashar al-Assad. In Raqqa's center, ISIS is surrounded on all fronts. The SDF has taken back control of over half the city, including, in the past few days, the Great Mosque and the Old City. The remarkable drone footage shows how much has been destroyed in this small city. Up to 20 airstrikes a day from U.S.-led coalition planes, according to the SDF. While the airstrikes target ISIS fighters, increasingly, civilians are being killed, in part because ISIS often uses them as human shields. As the smoke of the strikes and mortars lingers in the air here, ISIS retreats, leaving danger in its wake. Local fighters say this entire open area has been laced with IEDs. And it's estimated there are around 1,500 ISIS fighters left in Raqqa. The city has been the center of the terrorist group's self-declared caliphate since 2014. These drone pictures give us a new, inside view of a city starting to feel liberation, but at a very heavy price. Hala Gorani, CNN, London.
On today's Health Minute, influenza has hit Australia particularly hard this year. CNN's Kim Hutcherson has that and what it means for us here in the U.S. in today's Health Minute.
Australia is having a worse than usual flu season this year. As of August 18th, there were nearly 94,000 laboratory-confirmed cases reported to government authorities. That's almost 2.5 times the number of infections they had in the same period last year. There have been 52 deaths in Australia associated with influenza, compared with 27 at the same time last year. There have also been more flu-related hospitalizations, 1,429 versus 719 in last year's surveillance report. According to Australia's surveillance system, adults over the age of 80 and children between the ages of 5 and 9 have been most affected. Influenza A is the predominant strain circulating in Australia, and 81% of deaths were caused by it. Since the Southern Hemisphere's flu season precedes the one in the Northern Hemisphere, experts say it sometimes provides clues about what's to come. Of course, with influenza, exact outcomes are impossible to predict. So talk to your healthcare provider about getting a flu shot. The vaccines are designed to fight the influenza strain that will be most common during the upcoming season. For today's Health Minute, I'm Kim Hutcherson.
If you start to feel ill, visit health services in the ARD building or call at 931-221-7107.
Horror movie It is set to creep its way into theaters this weekend, but residents in Pennsylvania town already got a sneak peek review when a balloon prank based on the flick plopped up all over town. Jeremy Roth has today's Take a Look at This.
Residents of Lidditz, Pennsylvania are all talking about it. No, not the Spooky Killer Clown movie, but a balloon prank inspired by the Spooky Killer Clown movie. Residents started noticing red balloons appearing on sewer grates all over town. Police responded and rounded up the balloons. They also tweeted that they were, quote, terrified to inspect the evidence. But as it turns out, it wasn't a creepy clown terrorizing the town. It was a group of teen girls just clowning around. The group fessed up and reportedly met with police for a, quote, funny follow-up.
Okay, go ahead.
A community in New York State is celebrating a school crossing guard for her 43 years of keeping kids safe. Suffolk County crossing guard Danae Wood polices the crosswalks for South Middle School in Brentwood, and she's been on the job for over 4 decades. She was honored for her dedication by the county's police commissioner, flanked by her crossing guard brethren and her husband. She says she still loves the job and has no plans to hang up her vest anytime soon.
I love getting up in the morning, seeing the kids and getting my day started and finding out what's happening.
For Take a Look at This, I'm Jeremy Roth.
I don't know, there's just something in the air. I feel like we're all excited for this new season of APSU-TV News, and we also have some new faces on weather, Aaliyah Harris, and you might remember this one from
the weather.
Miss Rachel Lejeune. Glad to have everybody up here, and Ben, one final ride.
One final ride.
One final ride for Ben Goodman.
So close to graduation.
Definitely understand those that want to graduate and find a new job and get out there to the real world, like they say.
Gotta step out in the world.
Can't wait to get back here. That's all the time we have for today. Be sure to join us in the interaction by liking us on Facebook at facebook.com/APSU-TV News.
Thanks for watching another edition of your Gov's News Weekend Update.
And as always,
let's go Peay!